Hey guys, welcome again to Joe Knows. So grateful that you are taking the time to tune in. Today we're going to kind of finish up our series To Become One, which is really just a reflection of a book I wrote on marriage, and I use it for pre-marriage counseling, marriage coaching, marriage rescue, all kinds of things like that. And today we're going to cover what is the 10th session in the counseling, and we're going to talk about oneness, but we're going to talk about physical oneness, the sexual relationship that God designed to be experienced between a man and a woman after they're married. So having said that, we live in a world that doesn't see the sexual experience, sexual intimacy in the way that God designed it. God designed it to be in a part of a closed relationship, a marriage, a commitment, and designed it to take place after the marriage. And again, I might sound like a dinosaur, but I'm not a dinosaur. I'm really just a man who believes in God's word. So for me, I was very sexually active at a very young age. I grew up in New York City, and I went down a lot of wrong roads in that area. And at 22 years old, living with a girl, I came to a place that I found Christ. And as I began to read the Bible and explore what God says, I realized that God designed the sexual relationship, and He knows how it works best. And I made some adjustments. And shortly after I became a Christian at the age of 22, I made a decision to stay sexually pure, to no longer be involved sexually. And I define purity, sexual purity, as I'm going to do this in a way that I'm a former youth pastor, and we get really good at communicating because we know that if there's a loophole, a teenager will find it. So I say this: the bathing suit parts of the body, let that sink in, are off limits to the touch and to the eyes. Okay, so that's just a way to help us. It's not trying to say don't have fun. It's not trying to take away things that are enjoyable. It's trying to do things God's way. Because if God designed the sexual experience, He knows how it works best. And I discovered that is how it works best, because having been as sexually active as I was up until I became a Christian, really shortly after. I had about a 6-week period after I invited Christ into my life where I kept going down that road. And then I came to the realization that that way that I was pursuing sex was bankrupt. It really was. And I stayed pure for 6 years. And I married my wife, Tony. And on our honeymoon, we experienced intimacy. We saw and touched the bathing suit parts of the body for the first time in our relationship. And it was quite different than the relationships I had had before. In a sense, I had God's blessing on that, and that's an amazing thing. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about about some of the things that we do wrong and how to rectify them. So the first thing you want to do in experiencing physical oneness, intimacy, in the way that God designed, is you want to make sure that you have dealt with the past. You've put the past in the past. So I told you that I had been sexually active with many different women in the years before I knew Christ. And then when I came to Christ, I needed to kind of put that in the past. And when a man and a woman come together sexually, in a sense, they become one physically. In fact, the scriptures talk about when we violate God's standards of purity. Now, don't panic, because almost all of us do. I did, and probably if you're listening, you did too. But we become one with that person in those moments that we're intimate, that we become together, that we come together. Intercourse creates oneness. And it actually says to sin sexually in God's word is to sin against one's own body. So we're actually doing damage to ourselves in this wonderful area that God designed. And so you want to make sure that you put the past in the past. So I encourage couples to make sure that they break what are called soul ties. A soul tie is in those moments that you became one with that person. Even if you were together for a long time, if you're not married, you create a bond. And as you move into doing things God's way, you break the soul ties with those people, and you ask God to forgive. You ask them to forgive for the past. I encourage married couples. I work with mostly married couples, lots of pre-marriage, but mostly married couples. And I ask them, did you have sex with each other before you were married? And they usually say yes. And I said, did you ask God to forgive you for that? And it's profound to them. Wow, ask God to forgive. Wow. And did you ask each other's forgiveness? And the reason is all we're trying to do is put the past in the past. If you want God's blessing on this wonderful area that God gives us to experience, then you just ask for and receive forgiveness from each other and then from God. And you make sure that any sentimental letters, pictures, with people other than the one you're married to, you want to make sure that you discard those so that you break any connection to those people that you became one with. Okay? And again, it's not weird. It's just something you simply do in prayer. And perhaps there isn't a soul tie. Perhaps there isn't an ongoing connection. So that would be the equivalent of having clean hands and washing them just to be sure. So I encourage couples to put the past in the past, and then we begin to talk about the present. Now, here's the deal. Very interesting. Many married couples, married for 10 years or more, have stopped having sex. You say, if you're single, you say, Joe, that's impossible. I thought married couples have sex 3 times a day. Well, it doesn't work that way. And though we often want to jump into the sexual experience, when we jump in prematurely, again, not doing it God's way before we're married, we usually end up not getting God's full blessing. And I find many couples have it's really slowed down, or they've stopped having intimacy completely. Now, statistics would say, I don't know who they is, but they say that if a couple has sex less than 10 times a year, that they are dysfunctional in that area. And we really don't need to look at numbers and things like that. What I like to help a couple do is to find out what is going to be a perfect expression of physical intimacy between that couple. And there are lots of things that determine that. Okay, so you have a man's heightened sexual desire is from 18 to 25. Now, if you're 26, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're on your way down, okay? For a woman, her heightened sexuality, desire sexually, comes at 35 and above, and there are times that menopause will kick it into an even higher gear. So when it comes to frequency between a couple, the average number of times a couple has sex is just under twice a week. And again, that's just an average, okay? But we don't really care about that. A couple, and it's a couple to individual people, their personal desire for sex is going to be different, and it's a moving target. By the way, Hollywood tells us that the man wants to have sex every day and the woman only has sex when she needs something from the husband. It's a complete lie. Complete lie. A person's desire sexually is unique and is very different for each person. And as I just shared to you, a man goes in there like a lion, and he sometimes, as he gets older, he becomes more like a lamb. Okay? And women tend to pick up steam in that area. So what a couple wants to do is approach their sexual, their times of being together intimately in a skillful way. So for instance, if one partner has a desire for sex once a week and the other person has a desire for sex 3 times a week, they have different sexual desire appetites, at least at that stage of their lives. So here's how it works. If that particular couple has sex once a week, that means that one person is always getting their way. And I think that's unhealthy. If that same couple has sex 3 times a week, that means that other person is always having their way. And I think that's unhealthy. There's a concept I want to introduce you to. It's called other-centered sex. Okay? It's actually the way God designed the sexual experience. So for the man, his focus during a time of intercourse is to meet the needs of his wife. That's his focus, not to meet his own needs. See, when I had sex before I was a believer, I never even thought about her needs. I just thought about mine. And by the way, that's how the animals have sex. It's not about intimacy, experiencing oneness. It's about having a desire, a need fulfilled. Okay? So if you ever seen animals, I'm sorry to paint this picture for you, getting it on. There's nothing about intimacy that I've seen there watching National Geographic and seeing animals procreate. Okay? But the human experience, by the way, the human being is the only being that has sex face to face. Because God designed it as more of a way to procreate, as more of a way to have a need met. He designed it as a way to experience oneness. And that's why it happens face to face. You might want to try once in a while opening your eyes during intimacy with your spouse, because as you get to that place of coming to that climax, your mind, your body is releasing chemicals that bond you with the person you're looking at. By the way, and I'm just going to wet your whistle in this area. By the way, pornography is so very dangerous, because if you bond to the person, to the thing that you're looking at when you come to a climax, then you can actually bond to a computer screen. You can bond to a phone. And most of the men who are addicted to pornography, they don't even have sex, because they struggle with, because they've learned a way to have solo sex. It doesn't involve another person. It's a lot easier that way, it would seem to be. But that's not how God designed it. So I like to talk to couples about something I call other-centered sex, where the woman is focused on needing the needs of a man, and the man is focused on needing the needs of the woman. Now, if you don't know this, I will tell you that when it comes to the time that it takes for a man to get from the beginning to the middle to the end, it could take, on a good day, 3 minutes. Okay? A man is designed to get to that place much quicker than a woman. And a woman, it could take about 30 minutes. So I've heard it described as a man is like a microwave and a woman is like a crock pot. So if the man is only thinking about his own needs, he's not going to hang in there long enough to actually meet the needs of his wife. But if it's self-centered sex, he might not even care. And so it's designed for you to be thinking about the other person, meeting their needs. It's other-centered, just like most things in life. When you read through the scriptures and you talk about following Christ, Christ is the most other-centered person. Now, he didn't have sexual experience. He was God, okay? But we see from his life an other-centered person, and that's the way we're to skillfully approach the sexual experience between a man and a woman. Now, I've got a lot more that I can say. I'm probably, I don't want to get a bad rating on this, because I could get into some things. I'll just allude to some things. You want to be able to approach the sexual experience skillfully. In the scriptures, it says that in marriage, that the wife's body does not belong to her. It belongs to her husband. Now, men really like that, and we maybe want to say, okay, hey, your body is mine. But it's not, it's a mutual thing. It says the man's body doesn't belong to him, but it belongs to the wife. What it's saying there is that in marriage, the man's body is what is supposed to bring that woman to meeting her sexual needs and desires, and the woman's body for the man. Nothing else. No one else. Okay, and it's a mutual thing. It's not you can say, hey, your body's mine, lay down. Okay? Sorry for being blunt. I was a youth pastor. You learn to be blunt. That's not it. It's a skill. And there's a gentleness and an art where, but you recognize that when you came into a marriage, that you were committing to, among other things, being there to have that person's sexual needs met. And you're the one to do that. And you do that for each other. And it's only the two of you doing that for only each other. There's a skillful way to approach it. So you probably want to learn the things that prepare a person to desire intimacy, and you do those things beforehand, okay? I'm not really even just talking about foreplay. I'm talking about honeydews, and I'm talking about prepare a favorite meal, or bring home flowers, or there are certain things that create a desire in a person to want to connect in the most intimate way. And you learn to skillfully approach those things. I think I'm going to stop now. What I want you to know is this, that the creator of the sexual experience is God. And the sexual experience between a man and a woman after marriage is good. It's very good. It's what God designed. It's to be experienced. It's to be enjoyed. It results in the production of the creation of children and all of the different things. And it brings a man and a woman in marriage. It reminds them that, here, I want to end with this. The sexual experience, as God designed, is to only be experienced between a man and a woman after marriage. And in that experience, that sets apart the husband-wife relationship from every other relationship. The sexual expression, having sex, being intimate together. It sets your relationship apart from every other one. It should not be neglected, but it should be approached in a skillful, loving, and other-centered way. I hope that's helpful. I go into a little more detail in my coaching, not that much. I just kind of elaborate on things. Listen, what you'll find is in the scriptures, the one who created marriage, the one who created sex, the one who created life, and the one who has created heaven, he knows how things work best. If you commit yourself to experiencing even sexual intimacy the way God designed it, you'll be most fulfilled, and your marriage will be very, very special. And two people will be able to come one in every way. God bless you. I hope this series has been helpful to you. Go back and listen to some of the other series. I think that we did 8 or 9 of these. If you're interested in marriage coaching or pre-marriage counseling, please contact me at joe@crossroadsarl.org, and I'll be happy to get you on my schedule and help you to have to learn what it means for two people to become one. Thanks a lot.